Never mind.
Parte del Piero, rete del Piero! Pallone con i contadini per Nedved, Nedved, Pirlo, la conclusione in rete! Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco! Del Piero, gol! Pogba, rete! Un gol incredibile! Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Turin Giants podcast number 351. I'm Farhad. I'm the host that loves you most. I'm joined here by my good friend Kevin and Frederick. Boys, what's going on?
Hard question to answer. I think normally with a 2-goal comeback, especially when you're scoring that final goal in the dying minutes of the game, we're celebrating that fino alla fine mentality, and we came back and earning a tough earned point away from home in a difficult stadium against a top 4 opponent. But we put ourselves in that position, and finding ourselves letting more than two or more goals in 7 out of the last 8 games when Roma's only done it for the 3rd time all season. Inability to finish off chances. This could have been so much more and be within a point of Roma going into next week against Pisa and some other lower opposition. So I'm definitely happy with the point, and the 3-3 game is definitely an entertaining match, but this could have been so much more.
Frederick, how are you, buddy? I like your hoodie.
Thanks. Got it from a good friend of mine. Well, 2 things. One is I'm not happy at all. I don't share the optimism a lot of people seem to have at this point.
Okay. Not a happy camper, but a negative Nancy today, are you?
Yeah, I'll get into that. I'll get into that later. And the second point is stop calling me Frederick, because you make me sound like 19th century North London pencil vendor or something like that. It's Frédéric with a little bit of pizzazz, please.
Frédéric, you got it, bud. Well, we'll get into all of that. I got 2 pages worth of notes here. It was almost all but done, but then we come back again. The boys showed the spirit. Before we get into all of that, I want to say hello to all of our live listeners here, everyone who's joined us on YouTube Live, youtube.com/Turin Giants official. Or you can listen to and watch this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It was so funny. I was telling Kevin how Apple Podcasts finally are coming out with the video version of the podcast about 3 years after Spotify. So you'll be able to watch us on your, if you use Apple Podcasts. Great game, like I said. Kind of still hungover from that bounce from the Champions League. And I was actually curious to see, that was one of my first notes here, I was curious to see how the boys do mentally after that. And I guess they showed us that comebacks are the name of the game nowadays. Frederick, did you notice anything after the Galatasaray game? Let's just kind of give our final thoughts on that. Did you hear anything as far as talk around the locker room, and what was the consensus around Juventus regarding that game?
Well, the consensus from people outside of Juventus was, of course, that they played a good game and the fino alla fine mentality and the fighting spirit, which is to be applauded. But Spalletti was rightfully still pissed because they didn't go through. And I think to sum it up, as a whole, even looking at today, you conceded, I think, 20 goals in 7 games, we're out of the Copa, we're out of the Champions League, and we're 4 points behind the number 4 in the table. So, forgive me for not, putting off fireworks and stuff like that because there's no need to. I love the comeback things, but we make it possible for ourselves to do a comeback in the sense that we force ourselves to make that comeback. There wouldn't have to be a comeback today if we finish the chances. There wouldn't have to be a comeback against Galatasaray at the Allianz Stadium if we played a decent enough second half in Istanbul. And these are the things that bug me because everything that we're doing now, we have in our own hands, and still, for some strange reason, we make it uncomfortable for ourselves. Very
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's start here with the game that just ended. Let's start, of course, as always, with the starting 11. Perin again in goal. I actually want to hear your guys' thoughts about that. Is it purely tactical, or Di Gregorio is, they've given up on him? What do you hear about the around the locker room, Frederic?
Not much. I think he's been given enough chances by Spalletti, and in a one-to-one conversation, he admitted to Spalletti that he's suffering mentally because of the pressure and the negative reportings, and that it influences his play. So Spalletti decided to get him off, and I don't know if Spalletti still has faith in Di Gregorio after hearing that, because I think if you're a coach and you're talking to a player who's struggling, you'd expect him to bounce back and be mentally a bit more stable or hungry or whatever you want to call it. But Di Gre admitting in that conversation that he was struggling mentally, wasn't the thing that Spalletti wanted to hear at that point.
Well, and coming during I think it was this past week, some of the comments from third parties and ex-players and what you hear in the media starting to blur together. But I think it was Marquisio who came out this week talking about just this team. Stuff that we've talked about all season and past seasons as well, about the lack of mental fortitude and strength and understanding what it means to put on this kit and show up, win, lose, or draw, giving everything for it and being psychologically, mentally, emotionally in the right place to contribute towards Juventus. And there are very few players on this team who are up to that, and we know who those players are. And when your goalkeeper, who has come in behind the likes of Buffon and Chesney, and he was supposed to be the guy and clearly is not, and when he's admitting, like a true professional who's having a rough patch, has the mental strength and has the tools and resources to be able to block that out and come back. That's part of being a professional athlete. You're never always going to be at the top of your game, and one thing slide, you are able to help get yourself back. And he's clearly demonstrating that he's unable to. And then if we're moving forward with Perin, you can see Perin is weak with his feet. We saw it today, right? That first goal, like case in point, right? It doesn't lend himself to the play that Spalletti wants to have. He's supposed to be a better shot stopper, but he wasn't that great today.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that as far as your mental state, goalkeeper are the most vulnerable. It's a position that requires so much mental strength, and you just can't afford someone being mentally weak in that position or slipping somehow. But yeah, let's continue with the starting 11. Perin, Kalulu, Bremer, Kelly, Cambiaso, Thuram, Coupe, Conceição, and Yildiz. Pretty strong starting 11, wouldn't you say?
I mean, in context of this team, sure. I mean, if what we're dealing with, it's hard to, with Locatelli not being
No Locatelli
available.
for sure.
This is probably, like, air quotes, right? Like the strongest starting 11 that we have.
Yeah,
even
without-
though we
without-
know it's full of holes.
Without Loca, we saw him sitting next to Chiellini there. I didn't know who the third person was, but yeah, Locatelli was at the stadium. Great atmosphere. I always enjoy watching Roma home games. The atmosphere is just electric.
The special.
Yeah, Kevin, you mentioned in our. I'm going to refer back to our WhatsApp chat a lot, and you mentioned that this is a big game for Yildiz. What did you think? How did you think he did it after all?
It wasn't a good game from him.
Slipping and sliding all over the place.
Well,
Again,
I mean, that's the Stadio Olimpico pitch for you.
The ACL taker.
ACLs. Yeah. I mean, where Chiesa was, his career took a turn for the worst. Look, I think you can see how much this means to Yildiz, and I think it's kind of interesting that since his contract extension, he's been poor. It's like he's trying to prove that he earned it, or trying to prove something, and he's working too hard. He's trying to do it all himself. He's not conserving his energy well. He's not picking his head up. His shots are errant, right? And this is, somebody's got to sit down with him and take him through some of these things. I imagine Spalletti is. I imagine there's other people in his trusted inner circle that are taking him through it, but he can't do it all alone. And the sad part is, when he tries this hard and tries to take it all on himself, I think he ends up being worse. Right? He's just not contributing to the flow of the game that we saw at the end of 2025 and as 2026 started. But the whole month of February, he's been non-existent in terms of contributing to the outcomes of games. His effort is there, but there's no output.
One of the comments here says that he has fourth most amount of minutes this season, and he's only 20. I don't know what his age has to do with it. I'm actually curious to find out what that means for him. But yeah, he's putting a lot of work. You can see him.
But can't we expect that? I'm sorry, but if you look at other quality top players, they perform the same. They execute the same. I don't see Lamine Yamal being rested every single game or every 2 games. And with all the respect I have for Kenan and his qualities and the impact he has on this team, because he has a significant amount of impact on this team. But if you want to be paid as one of the best in the game, almost 7 million a year, you need to perform as well. And we can get into the debate of, comparing him with other players on the team, but I think that's redundant, because his quality, or the difference in quality between him and the other players, is very obvious. But he needs to get some output as well, because, all this, dribbling and trying to do everything himself but not resulting in assists or goals is just counterproductive, productive as well, for him personally as for us as a team.
Yeah, for sure. Well, getting back to the game here, I know first 10 minutes were kind of weird. Juventus just couldn't get a hold of the ball. After 10 minutes, I noted here that they kind of gained a little control and started attacking, started retaining. I actually liked what they were doing in midfield. A lot of short passes, a lot of good possession going on. Of course, we have to talk about the misses that didn't even go on target, and that was just awful. And we mentioned that this would come back and bite us in the ass, and unfortunately it did. What would you think about the first half of misses that went nowhere from Yildiz, and Chico was having a bad game until that beautiful strike? Wasn't a fan of those. You have to put those on target if you're Juve and get that early goal, but unfortunately it didn't happen.
But it's been the story of the whole season. I mean, it's been how many times it's games where we are outplaying the opposition and we have good moments of play. The buildup is good. We're possessing, we're passing, we're giving ourselves opportunity, but the final cross isn't there, or the shots are a waste. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm not looking at the stats, but we didn't have a shot on target in the first half.
You're correct.
We had a number of opportunities, and we were the better team. But we can't finish things off or capitalize, and we find ourselves either letting up a tying goal or finding ourselves behind. It's just the same script. But thankfully, we're not talking about a loss today.
We're this close. By the way, I know there's a couple of things I wanted to mention before we move on. Forgive my background. New studio, getting it situated, and soon there'll be a sweet little background. But for now, you have to. I got 2 scarves and a flag for the Juventus Chicago fan club here, and I don't know if you guys want to get into it. Maybe a couple of thoughts on your favorite Juventus-Roma memory, kind of historical perspective. Real quickly, Frederic. You've been a fan for a long time. There must have been a couple of great moments that you remember from this great rivalry.
There were a couple, but the one that's closest to me in terms of memory was in September of 2012, I think. I went to watch live at the former Juventus Stadium, now Allianz Stadium. And I think we won 4-1 with goals by Pirlo, Matri. I think even Vidal.
The pink jerseys, right?
Sure.
Was that the 4?
No.
Was that the 4-0 game?
No, 4-1. 4-1. I think Osvaldo scored as well.
Okay. It wasn't the one where Vidal scored like 2 goals in like the first 10
No.
minutes.
That was
wasn't it Lichtsteiner with the 4 fingers?
Honest to God, I can't remember. I just know about, the Pirlo goal because that stuck with me. I know that Marquisio played a hell of a game as well. But it was just, I think it was also one of my first sessions at the Allianz, at the Juventus Stadium. And it was just electric. And there you could see or could feel the team that Juventus was becoming at that time, because we were not only dominant in all areas of the pitch, but we also had that output. We were very dangerous. We had our legendary 3 in the back. We had Buffon in goal, so it was an easy ride defensively, but attackingly and offensively, we were so strong and unpredictable. And you could see that this, with a couple of adjustments and slight tweaks, could turn into something special, and it did, because the seasons after that we were, dare I say it, even a European top team. Yeah. So that was the beginning of the initial era for me, and I got to witness that live, so that was nice.
That's a beautiful time to be at the stadium. We got Dan Colo sighting. His favorite moment was Barzagli assist to Giovinco when he ran 70% of the field. Oh, yeah, that was magnificent. That was beautiful. Kevin, real quick, what's your favorite memory?
Yeah, so mine's a slightly different answer, and we referenced the game already when Chiesa, unfortunately, when he ruptured his knee and saw that season.
That's your favorite memory?
Well, because it's emotional. So that was January 9th, 2022. Because that was the day my wife and I arrived in Turin when we moved there for a couple of years. So we arrived there on that day, and that game was that evening, and we had just gotten situated in an Airbnb because we were living in a temporary place before we moved something more permanent. But there was a game that evening. We just arrived in Turin, very excited. I remember we went to the store, made a meal, sat down in this Airbnb to watch the match. And of course, we find ourselves behind, right? And it's just didn't want to start my first day in Turin with this awful memory of losing to Roma. But that was the 4-3 comeback, right? The Pazzesca comeback with the De Sciglio goal, right?
That's right.
That was such an awesome game in itself. But obviously, the Chiesa injury, it'd be very interesting to see the type of player he'd be today if that had never happened. But that memory was personal and emotional for me, and it was quite a game. So yeah, that's
well done.
That's my answer.
Well done. Well, Mohammed here in the comments, he mirrors my favorite moment. The Osvaldo, the 102 points, the historic goal against his old team, and he celebrated like crazy. And one of my favorite memories. Also, Del Piero scored a beautiful Del Piero's Zona Del Piero goal against Roma. But let's get back to the game here.
Can I interrupt for a sec, Farhad? I just want to comment on a lot of people in chat saying that we're hating on Yildiz or whatever. We're not hating on Yildiz, talking bad or whatever you want to call it. We're just stating facts. And I think this is the first thing you need to do, not us externally, but also people internally, to analyze the things that could be better, could have been done better in order to keep growing. And I think this is a perfect moment for Yildiz to reflect on that and take some advice of, players who've been in the same situation, or even coaches that have seen a lot of people with a lot of talent progress in such a manner, and take that on the chin. And this is not me, going around Twitter yelling Yildiz out hashtag or whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that but we're very critical on other players, and rightfully so. I don't think because Yildiz is young or he played minutes or he's whatever that we should spare him in that way. I think criticism needs to be constructive, not as harsh as sometimes we as supporters tend to do, because that's just, emotion stalking. But we need to, be transparent in that matter and see what can be improved, especially when we're trying to, change or alter something long term for Juventus as a team. So I just want to, put that into place, because our comments are getting a bit pulled out of context, I feel.
Yeah. No, thanks for clarifying that, Frederic. And just one more thing to add to that. Like it's not lost upon us, the situation that Yildiz finds himself in, right? The team that he finds himself in, and the players that surround him. He has useless center forward strike partners and a midfield that, aside from Locatelli, doesn't support and doesn't show up. And we've seen the error-prone Cambiaso all season partnering him on the left side, who doesn't offer much defensively. And Yildiz takes it upon himself, and I commend him for it, and his defensive work ethic and the effort that he puts in. But he tires himself out, right? And it's almost like he's trying to do too much. And with the team that he's in and the situation he's in and this period that Juve is going through, and probably the pressure for a 20-year-old signing this big contract, supposed to be the future star of this club, and all the comparisons to Del Piero and so on and so forth, the fact of the matter is he's not contributing to goals. He's not scoring goals. He's not getting assists, despite the effort and the talent that he is showing, but it's not contributing to the outcome. Like, that is just a fact. That's none of us stating or speaking poorly about the player's skills, his potential, and his future. But it's just over these last 5 or 6 weeks, he's not having the impact on the scoreline right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, how can anyone think we are bad-mouthing a player, especially a player like Yildiz? But it needs to be said, we are professionals over here. How dare you? We are analysts that pick apart every player. No one is safe on the Turin Giants podcast. But let's move on with the game here. I wanted to shout out our friend Zach. Somebody was asking how he's doing. Zach is fine, just a little busy. Representing that H-Town. I want to read a message from him that came on our Turin Giants WhatsApp thread. The lack of polish is annoying. To be outplaying Roma in Rome and have literally nothing to show for it, is annoying. Basically, who's saying that? First half was very frustrating. Your overall thoughts on the first half, which was, aside from the goal, aside from a couple of couple of good saves from Perin, and I think one of them was his fault, and he saved that saved that moment of embarrassing. Aside from that, there was nothing to show for it. Just like Zach said. What did you guys think of the first half? Any thoughts?
I think I'd categorize it. Like I'll just give 3 quick thoughts, and then I'll let Frederic either build upon those or offer other ones. Again, poor finishing, right? We've talked about this, we've mentioned it already, but poor finishing, inability to finish off periods of positive play. 2, poor collaboration, interplay from the midfield. Koopmeiners and Thuram were not playing well together. I think individually they were doing half decent when they had the ball and were doing something, but the contribution and the interplay between the two of them was quite poor, which became a problem definitely in the second half. The midfield was pretty much non-existent. And the third thing I'll state is just David is invisible. It's like playing with 10 men at times when he's on the field. I'll just leave it at that. Those are my 3 takeaways from the first half.
Yeah, I wanted to take a minute to talk about David because we're talking about bad-mouthing players. Well, here I go. No, I mean, David is an evolution in every sense of the word, and having that position as having that number 9 position and not making any progress throughout the season, even with the whole Spalletti effect. I think that that says enough. That says it all, really. And we were questioning the David signing as well as the Openda signing because, well, we didn't really know what he was going to add to the team, but we gave him the benefit of the doubt, especially due to what he performed or how he performed in the past with the other teams. But you could definitely feel that he's not adding anything onto this team. And a lot of people say, yeah, but he keeps the ball with him and he makes the midfield pull up and stuff like that, which is true. But in the end, you're paying nearly 7 million euros a year for a striker that doesn't score, doesn't hand out assists. So I don't know. Yeah. Should he play with another striker alongside him? That could be a possibility, but then you're stuck with Yildiz that you can't change in this team. So I don't see a solution for the David problem in that way. I think the only solution for us as a team is maybe sell him in the summer and get somebody in who could perform better in this team or who is capable of adapting to the way this team plays and be of more importance. But for David, I have no hope for him in this team. No.
Yeah, well, I wanted to mention, just because of his username, Lift Heavy, Eat Cows says, David is an MLS caliber striker. I called it as soon as he was mentioned as a possibility. Basically get rid of him. I'm not going to read the rest of the comment, but yeah, it's a frustrating player to say the least. He's kind of even I don't know. I feel like as a player, you need to show a little emotion. You need to be out there and fighting and show it on your face. But David, even looking at him, he's just very, very quiet, very
vanilla.
Very, yeah, sadly.
Yeah, like bland.
Here's an idea. Somebody mentioned playing Gatti instead of David. Even Arzak said that.
I would, especially in the second half too, when players are tired and he just can come in like a battering ram. Like, he doesn't have the defensive qualities that we would expect in a top tier Juve back line. But man, does Gatti have talent? Or does Gatti have heart?
Yeah.
For what he lacks in talent, he does make up in heart and passion. And he's shown that in the last 2 matches specifically. But I know we'll get to the second half later. But.
Look at his ability to grow hair. He was bald one day. All of a sudden, look at that hair, man. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, we'll talk about. Somebody called him Gattistuta, and I love that so much. Gatistuta. But let's get to the second half. No subs, as far as I know. There was a couple of minutes of back and forth, but then Chico Conceição, he missed a couple of bad balls in the beginning, in the first half, but then comes out with I didn't even know what to call it. It's just like the first
Luck.
time.
Yeah.
Luck.
You think it was you? Oh no!
Yeah, of course.
Come on.
No, come on.
He does that. He does that 10 more times, and every one of them is going to end up in row Q.
Yeah, we have to be honest here. Like, I love the goal. Like, technically, it was sublime. Timing was,
Brilliant.
the pace, the weight, the timing. It was all, fantastic. The way it landed in the back of the net. But let him try that another 100 times, and 99 out of 100 he won't score. So in that respect, it was a bit of luck, and I don't blame him for that. I don't hate him for that. What I do not like about him is the inability to be consistent with the easier balls, because now we're cheering and wow, what a goal. And it has to be said, it was a technically sublime goal, but you keep losing points due to players like Chico, who are inconsistent, who can't seem to finish off the more easier chances that we create, or don't seem to manifest themselves in terms of, handing out assists, which is, in my opinion, a winger's, especially an offensive winger, is number one priority, or the thing that we, judge him upon. So, I'm happy he scored for the team, for himself as well, especially because it was a screamer. It was a beauty of a goal.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't change my overall thought of him as added value or non-existent added value in this team, in my opinion, because should he have scored in the first half with that, when I think it was Yildiz that played it wide for him, and he should have took that like in one time as a one-time shot, but he decided to stop it and, make that twist and turn, feint, shimmy move again.
Yeah, his conversion
I'd
rate
rather
is
see
certainly
him,
not the best.
I'd rather see him score those goals, because these chances we get offered a lot more often than, these nice once in a lifetime sublime shots that he hits. So
yeah, well, Conceição scores in the 47th minute. We concede really quickly in the 54th. Indica, sadly, Roma show Juventus how it's done on corners. The frustration continues with our defense of corners, and the way we take the corners is frustrating again. I do not understand. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I don't understand when you have two players standing over the ball and one of them just walks away, kind of, and the other one takes the corner.
Yeah, but I don't think it's
Specialty.
that. Yeah, and I don't think that's the issue. I think this is also, you can basically, well, that's my opinion, and I'm nobody here, but from my understanding in my years of playing football, I also think that this is partially a keeper error, because if you have a keeper with enough aura, as the young folks call it nowadays, you position your defenders prior to that, corner happening. You say, okay, this guy's free. I need somebody there. I need somebody on the first post. I need somebody on the second post. And you listen to that keeper, but you don't see Digre or Perrin communicate that well. I remember back in the Gigi days, and I don't mean to compare the keepers, but Gigi used to literally pull out somebody and put him next to the opponent,
using his hands,
if they weren't listening. So that's what you need to do as a keeper. You need to set your defense, because you have the overall view of everything that's going on. You need to make sure that everybody's positioned right, and then don't mean to say that the defenders are not at foul here, because this was a horrible mistake by Cambiaso once again, because if I'm not mistaken, he was marking Indica in that corner, and Indica had time to make a cappuccino while that corner was happening. So, but
Actually, Cambiaso and Coop both were just standing around. He not only went around one player, Ndika kind of went around two of our players and was able to score because Coop was caught sleeping as well.
But that's the thing. Normally, pre-game you get instructions, especially with dead ball situations, and your coach tells you, okay, this number 3 or number 8 is very always comes up for corners, so I want you to guard him, and I want Jim to guard Peter or whatever. But usually they switch it up during the games, which is normal because you try to create some confusion or chaos in the opponent's box. And then it's up to the keeper to say, look, I have this view right here in front of me. I can see that Peter is not guarding the number 8 and Jeff is letting number 3 get 3 meters behind him, or so that's where it all starts. And then if you make that error, okay, it can happen, but it's still primarily first the keeper who needs to respond and set up his defense, and then the defenders to act accordingly. And both things didn't happen, and that's why I think we concede that many goals on that ball situations, unfortunately, or a lot of goals as a whole.
But Frederic, we've all been talking about it, but you've been a huge voice of what I'm about to say consistently throughout the season around just the lack of quality across the team. Now, that doesn't just mean lack of skill, right? Lack of footballing talent and the ability to finish or beat an opponent or defend the ball in the appropriate way. It's also in quality of thought process and thinking and the football mind and instinct oftentimes, because if you are spending time thinking, you're probably a half a step behind. Right. And these are things that should come naturally to players in how to man mark on corners and set pieces, and how your goalkeeper is making sure that the team is positioned in the right way to defend it. And there's just things that as bums sitting on couches watching the game, but we've all had some level of experience. I mean, I played when I was younger, Frederic, you played semi-professionally and know it better than Farhad and myself. But like, these are things that seem relatively basic, that these players earning millions on set pieces should be able to set themselves up, right? And I know stuff happens and players get away and break free because they're obviously trying to score, but I just we're our own worst enemies sometimes. We really are.
Yeah, and especially that goal, that was very frustrating to me because at some point you think, and I did that while I was playing as well, you reflect on certain situations or things that you didn't handle as well as you could, and you try to learn from that, or at least improve upon that in the next game or even the training session. And I just see the same individual errors happening over and over again. And I'm pretty sure that Spalletti sees the same, and I'm pretty sure that Spalletti addresses the team, but our inability to adapt and to refocus and shift that focus and learn from those mistakes, to me, is very baffling. That's either two type of things. Either as a player, you're at your ceiling and you just can't perform any better. You can't keep that consistency, be it technically, be it mentally, or whatever you want to call it, or you're just not listening, or you're not getting the message in. And
sorry to interrupt, is this, before I lose that thought, is this what oh my god, who's the coach that smokes?
Sarri.
Is this what Sarri and Allegri called these players are uncoachable?
Yeah. I think so.
I mean, they mentioned a couple of coaches mentioned that we're coaching a team that's uncoachable.
You see progression with the players that A, mean well, and B, have the ability. You see progression in a Locatelli, who I always criticized because I thought that he could do better, in my opinion. And now he is doing better, and I applaud him for that. Truth be told, I applaud him for that. You see McKennie turning out to fulfill his every potential, because McKennie was brought in as a typical box-to-box player, and the first seasons were a bit of a hit and miss in that respect. But now with Spalletti coaching him more personally and whatever, you can see that he's growing. We could say the same for Kelly, although I have to agree with some people in chat that he's not performing best, or he's not performing as the way we expected him to perform or what he has done.
The last couple of games have been tough for him.
Yeah, but I also think that's due to fatigue. The way I see him play, he literally has no power more in his passes. There's no weight in his passes. For me, he's tired and we don't have an alternative. But these are players throughout the season that have progressed a lot. And then you have these players like a Cambiaso, like a Conceição, who actually don't. And I think that's what coaches mean if they say that, I can't coach these players, in the sense that I can say whatever I want, they won't pick up on it, nor will they improve. And if you face that as a coach, that's pretty bad, because every player is part of the team, and every player has his use and has his, or should be, of some advantage to the team. And if you as a coach can't seem to get that out of him, then you're a bit, stuck in limbo in that respect.
Yeah, Cambiaso is so frustrating to watch. It's just sometimes the mistakes are just so amateur. We're kind of used to it, which sucks. Is there, Frederic? Is there any teams that are after Cambiaso, or Man City is where we peaked?
No, I think there's a lot of interest still in Cambiaso, just given the fact his age, his relative overall experience, because he's been with us and in Serie A for a couple of years now. So I truly feel that if we wanted to part ways with him, we could find a solution. But I hear a lot of people clamoring about the 7-year, 80 million euro bid from Manchester City. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Cambiaso is the typical player that you'll sell for 30 to 40 million maybe, which is not bad, because 30 or 40 million is 30 or 40 million. But getting somebody else who's better for that amount of money in this day and age, and the way the transfer market has been acting up lately, is very difficult. And I think we missed the Man City train, but it's very difficult. I don't know what's going on in Cambiaso's head. I know from the moment that he received that offer, he was very egotistical, and he felt a bit like the superstar amongst the regular players. And I think that hampered his performances a bit, and also his ability to be a bit more self-aware and have a bit more self-criticism.
Well, we're old enough to remember when Cambiaso was lighting it up. I mean, first few appearances when we watched him, Kevin, tell me.
Yeah.
Cambiaso was just on fire.
His first few appearances, it was the first half of last season. He was fantastic. He was absolutely a fantastic player, and then had a little bit of an injury, and then, as Frederic just said, after that Manchester City news, he never was the same player. And I've been very critical, just as everyone has been, of him this season. But the talent's there. It's mental fragility and a bit of ego that is totally misplaced for the player that he is and what he is delivering. I would prefer that he's a player that can get the right guidance and coaching, and maybe some space over the summer mercato, that he goes and buries his head in the sand somewhere and comes back a different player with the right attitude. I'd rather see his future progress with us as an Italian defender, with skill and with potential, rather than sell him and then below what he's probably worth, because he's not increasing his value right now, and then go try and find some subpar player, right? I think he can still offer something here, but this has been a very challenging season for him.
I think we can all agree that if we want to sell any player, not just speaking solely about Cambiaso here, but the player that we get in that position needs to be a level up. And I think this is a common mistake we made the last couple of transfer markets, that we attracted players for usually a lot more money than the people that were previously put there, and to see a bit of a downgrade in that respect. So for me, in this team, everybody is sellable, so to speak, but only if the alternative is better.
Would you guys agree with the With the comment here, P. Morton 7960 says Cambiaso ain't an left back. I'm not sure what his position is, but he looked a little better further up the pitch today.
I think he's performed well, and this is maybe not the best example because the Italian national team is no they're no world beaters right now, given their situation of not
that's no barometer
being on the outside looking in for the World Cup right now. But he has performed well in the qualifiers that I saw when he's on the right side and further up the pitch. I would be curious to see where he would perform in that Conceição position, to be honest with you. But given that we have Conceição there, we have Zagrova, we have Miretti, who's been used there, and we have literally nobody on the left back position. And Cabal has shown time and time again that he's not up to Juve standards. We don't have a choice. Cambiaso's in the left back position. I think he could play other positions on the field, but given the squad that we have, there's nowhere else he can go.
Also, I think he's been playing at that position for some time now. He should have gotten used to it a bit. I'm not saying he'll be the reincarnation of Cafu or Roberto Carlos in that respect, but I mean, you should be able, especially when the coach tries to educate you on that matter and to teach you things. You should be able to absorb that and put that into a bit of, on-field performance. And yeah, he doesn't have the speed, in my opinion, to play in the system.
Well, as P. Morton also says, speedy wingers cook the hell out of Cambiaso. In defense, he ends up fouling, obviously.
He's slow.
Yeah, he's not a fast guy. But let's continue with the game here. So we go down 3-1. Beautiful run from Malen. I mean, gorgeous pass. 2-3 touches, and that includes the initial pass. Just a goal you want to see your team score. It's such a beautiful run. Was it Kelly that couldn't keep up with Malen?
Yeah,
it was Kelly, right? Yeah, Kelly was not fast enough, and then Malen, couple of touches, beautiful little short game, and he chips it over. Perin. We go down 3-1. At that point, I know Frederick is on his fourth pack. I know he's upset. I mean, you can read the text messages.
What was Perin doing? Like the first mistake was didn't coming out, which is already a huge keeper error. My mistake, because you have to read the play a bit and anticipate. He doesn't do that at all. It felt like he was off to grab a burger at one of the stands or whatever. And then when he does eventually get in that 1-versus-1 situation, he tries to, I don't know, save it with his feet or some weird shit like that. Like, it just looked so awkward. So if you told me that this was a center back that put on gloves and we put into goal because we didn't have a reserve keeper, I'd have believed you in that instance, because this looked so amateuristic. It was unbelievable. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was Kelly's mistake as well, because he couldn't keep up with Malen. But like I said, and I've said this numerous times, a keeper should win you X amount of points during a season.
100%.
That's why he's there for. He's there for just that. And our keepers don't seem to be doing that, because I'm pretty sure that if Perin would have come out, you would have made it a whole lot more difficult for Malen at first. And should that not result in a goal, you'd still have a fighting chance into winning this thing, because you never know what the course of a game or how it might flow, but you'd still be more into the game in that respect. And now it was all but done, and I couldn't help but feel that Perin could have done a lot better there.
5 shots on target, 3 conceded.
20 conceded in 7 games, 20 goals. There was a time when we conceded 20 in like a whole season.
Yeah.
Now
3 goals against Atalanta, 3 goals against Inter, 5 goals Galatasaray, 2 Como, and today 3 Como. I mean 3 Roma.
And 2 Galatasaray midweek, despite the
exactly,
win.
yeah. But I was counting. Yeah, I missed that part. Thank you for letting me know. It's abysmal for a team like Juve. It's just
seven
very
out
sad
of
to
the
see.
last 8 games conceding 2 or more.
Yeah.
So
That's
a
insane.
couple of keeper thoughts here in the comments. Time for Pinsolio to step in. He extended his contract, if I'm not mistaken, and Szczesny should be available. They just need to convince his wife. Why? What's up with his wife in Turin? Is she one of those wives who hates life in Turin?
No, she always dreamt of, a Spain transfer, and they got the
The weather in
opportunity now.
Barcelona is better than Torino.
I can agree. I mean, I love Torino to death, but just meteorologically, Barcelona makes more sense for my pale skin than Turin does. So I'll give them that. But we're actively searching for two goalkeepers. We're actively searching for two goalkeepers.
I'm not familiar
Pinsolio's
with
renewal-
this. Sorry, Frederick.
No, it's okay. I was
Kanesecchi?
just saying, Kanesecchi. No.
No. You guys,
No.
you really want to go fishing in that Atalanta pond? If his
No,
contract
no.
was expiring this summer, I'd say, yeah, go for it. But
Yeah.
we can't fish
There
in that
are-
Atalanta pond.
No,
anymore.
but there's a bit of dialogue, but it's not name bound. But we are actively searching for two keepers, and Pinsolio extending is the testament of that, because he'll stay the number 3, but you can rest assured that number 1 and 2 will change if we have the financial means to do so, because we won't commit financial, I'm not going to say the word, but we're not going to put ourselves in a very dramatic financial situation once more just to get a keeper in. But everybody is aware of the fact that our two goalies will probably move on, and we need somebody solid there.
Put McKennie back there, one of the comments.
I bet you would. Kenny's an athlete. I just think he would have better insight.
Oh my God, I love our listeners. Thank you guys for making us laugh during this crazy period in the Juventus history. So I want to interrupt our regularly scheduled programming. We got thoughts from Spalletti. So Luciano, he says, I'm happy with the team's reaction. The players believed in themselves and never stopped thinking they could come back. The fans have helped us a lot recently, but they're behind us. When they're behind us like that, everything becomes easier. We went through a period that too many things went against us, and we weren't lucky either. I think my team has grown in many ways, and I'm convinced they'll have an excellent end to the season. Well, that's really nice of him to say. Conceição, I think this is Conceição's thoughts here. It was a great goal, but I'm much happier than we did after going down 3-1. It was difficult to come back into the game, but the whole team did a great job. Well, thank you, Chico. Thank you for. I thought it was Juventus.com is not really going crazy on Spalletti's comments. It's just that little part that I read. But if you guys can link me in the comments here about more of what Spalletti said, we can dissect that a little bit.
I have
Go
some
ahead,
if you want.
Of course.
I have to translate on the go, so if I make any mistakes,
We will forgive you.
please don't berate me. The first question is, how was the team spirit in the dressing room? And it was okay, he said, because we deserved the draw, but we should have gotten a whole lot more, and we should have worked to get a whole lot more. Concerning the aspect of willpower and mentality, I give the players 10 out of 10. But if you look at the quality aspect, we're still lacking a lot. We concede too many goals as a whole, and at times we are not fluent enough, and we don't put out the effort that we show on the training pitch. That's something we need to be very critical over and analyze, because we do need to step up our game. I'm very confident that we'll end the season on a positive note, but we need to start learning from our mistakes and start act accordingly, because we will not be receiving a lot of presents along the way. But I'm glad that this run of games has now come to an end, so we can focus in a timely manner, get some rest in, and I'll hopefully have more time to talk with the players.
Well done. Jeez.
I try
Thank
my
you.
best. Well, it's my. It was. I studied as a translator and interpreter, so it'd be
Oh my
pretty
goodness. Well done.
stupid of me if I fucked this up, to be honest.
Well,
But
your training has paid off because look at that. We have a jack of all trades here. And I also wanted to read something from Gasperini. It would be only fair if we mentioned the opposing coach. The two goals were very similar. Long balls were sent into the penalty area and were redirected to the far post, where we were very passive. This is what we should blame ourselves, not anything else. This is what we should blame ourselves for, not anything else. See, Frederick is translating on the spot. I can't even read an English English text. But yeah, let's talk about those goals. So, what do you guys think? I love to mention how coaches do as far as substitutions, and I think you guys agree when I say that Spalletti did great as far as subs. Does he get a Del Piero bell?
it's not like the man has a lot of choices either.
Yeah, Boga for David, Gatti for Bremer, Cambiaso for Openda, Jagrova for Conceição, and Miretti for Thuram. 3 out of those 5 players had something to do with a goal, and I guess when you sub someone in, you're hoping that change the game. Jagrova, he posted a story 3 minutes into coming back to the dressing room, fino alla fine, or something like that. He needed that. You know, we were mentioning in a top of the podcast how we don't want to berate the players. We don't want to make them scapegoats or portray him in a negative light. But he needed those two. He had 2 assists, correct?
Yeah.
Jagrova did great. Like Gasperini mentioned, you know, he sent those balls into the,
or at least contributed to the assist. I don't know if he actually got credit for.
I don't know.
That's right. Yield it came off Yildiz, right?
Yeah, I think the header came off Yildiz, but you know the pass, the cross in was off Shagrova, I think. So it was the pre-assist, if we're being technical. But I'm more glad that he got more minutes in, because it'd be easy to criticize him on that missed chance. But he wasn't. He got his minutes in, and that's something he needs, because I think we've been saying this all season. He just doesn't look match fit to us, and only getting minutes and healing from the injury that he has will make him better. So we got those minutes in, and he put in a decent performance. And Spalletti wasn't bothered about the criticism or the big chance that he missed against Galatasaray, and rightfully so, because if you have to criticize players on the pretext that they missed chances, then nobody should have been playing today, because everybody missed against Galatasaray. So,
but credit
I'm
to
glad.
Grova. I mean, like I still made like that miss is an appalling one, and I've joked a couple times that I'll just be seeing that in my nightmares for days, weeks, and months and years.
You don't have to see it in nightmares. That miss is popping up all over Instagram for me. I'm seeing fan.
Like if that had never happened, that match was still positive for him. He came off and did more than Chico did in that second half against Galatasaray. He was contributing more to the outcomes of plays into the game, and then was able to just kind of forget about all the criticism and came in and played well. And like that's what you want to see from professional players who either are subject to criticism or are going through a period of poor performance, that they're able to pick themselves off, shrug it off, and move on. I think Frederick has been one of the number of reasons that you've been complimentary of Kelly so far this season, because the last part of the second half of last season, after he came in, he was terrible. He was just
It was
not
abysmal.
a good defender for our side. But he picked himself up and has had a much, much better season with these last couple of games aside.
Yeah.
So credit to Zagrova.
Yeah, and especially I want to point it out to the players. I've just played semi-professionally, but from my experience, we as supporters we round off the season. It's done and dusted. we take our breaks, we go on vacation, we leave our team for what it is at that point, and we start afresh once the transfer market begins or training camps. But for players, it's not like that. You still carry that last season with you in your head. You still see these games over and over in your head, and it still has an impact on you. The good things, but also the negative things. And if you come off a very negative season, and not just personally, but as a whole squad, it tends to stay with you for a long time, and you can only break that cycle by doing better. And it's that step in doing better that's usually the most difficult step, because a mental block, especially in football, is real. And I never had to deal with Instagram accounts making fun of me. I never had to deal with social media aiming at me. Not even like TV. I was on TV for like 6 or 7 times, and that was about it. So I cannot even comprehend the level of stress these players have to handle. But on the other hand, they're paid accordingly.
Yeah.
So you should be able to, dust the season off and start afresh. But it's not as easy as everybody thinks, to be honest.
Yeah, well said. And then we get a goal from Boga, kind of half-empty net, mistake from
But Roma
the
will be kicking
defender.
themselves with how they were caught, and like what were they doing defensively? They were caught ball watching with nobody on him, but he took it well. Credit to him.
Hey, I mean, I'm starting to really like him. I'm not sure what his contract implications are when if
5
do
million.
sign him. 5 million. Yeah.
5 million.
Take
That's
him
it.
and run. Take him and run.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pay now. Yeah, just make the wire transfer happen today, just to be on the safe side of things. Make the wire transfer go out today for that 5 mil and get him in, because you
Players who
won't
come
find it.
in off the bench and are happy to be wearing this shirt and play a role, right? And if that's what we get from someone like him for 5 million, that's a. There are teams in the Premier League who pay 30-40 million for bench players.
Yeah.
If we can get someone like him for 5, it's a steal.
I could even see him if he's fully match fit, because from what I'm hearing, he's just 70% ish. I could see him starting a couple of games, like not the crackers in terms of big games, but this is the type of player you want to play
every
against.
game now is a big game. I'm sorry.
This it will be this season. It will be, but for next season, like the Copa games or the games against a Salernitana, if everything's going well and the team's in form and whatever, then he's a useful player to have. So for 5 million, I wouldn't hesitate or flinch for 1 second.
That's an insane price for 2026. I'm sorry, because I read that in the comments. I'm like, was the person just kidding? Because 5 million just sounds ridiculous nowadays. And the guy who scores and he comes in and he makes impact and more every game. And if you guys were watching the American the Paramount Plus, shocking statistic that he's third most. I don't know how to say that, but out of all Ivorians, he scored the third most goals, 21 goals in Serie A. Kessie and Gervinho being number 1 and 2.
But not just that, he's threatening, and I like players who are threatening. And you could see it in the Galatasaray game as well. The defenders don't know what to do. Whereas with a player like Conceição, his signature move is just that. So you always know after watching 3 or 4 compilation videos of Conceição what he's about to do. But Boga's so unpredictable. He's always searching that directness in terms of attacking play, which is really difficult to defend as a defender. So I think Boga, in that respect, is a breath of fresh air to us.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, let me share the screen here. Let me take a couple seconds here. Share the screen. No. So we're looking at SofaScore. Tell me if you guys agree. I mean, I don't put much stock into these player ratings, but the highest player here is Coop Miners with 7.1, man of the match. Everyone else is below 7. So Conceição 6.8, Yildiz 6.4, David 6.0. I think even
David should
less.
be like, what is this? If you show up on the pitch, you get a 6. Like that should be a 2 or a 3.
This is AI slop in my. I usually don't give much attention to these ratings because I feel that they're forced out of context. There are no structures in place in order to determine such a rating. It's not like a test or anything where right's are right and wrong's are wrong. But if you look at objectively, I think Goalkeeper has played a very decent game. He played a decent game in Istanbul. He played a decent game in Turin, I feel, and he played a decent game today. I'm not saying that this is the player we signed for 60+ million, but I do feel that he's improving, and maybe not at the speed that we wanted to see him improve, but from where he's coming from, because he was mentally very, very deep, and you could see that on the pitch. That's not something that changes overnight. So I'm very happy that he's improving.
Yeah.
And you never know. We used to, thought that Kelly was, we were better off putting a refrigerator in his position last season, and now this season he was one of the best consistently. So if that can happen to Kelly, I assume with the technical ability that Koopmeiners has, it should be possible for him as well. But only time will tell.
But my issue with, Coop, I would say, had a statistically tidy game. Right, you look at what he did. Right, he 73 touches, 91% pass accuracy, completing 51 of 56 passes, which is great. Won 100% of his aerial duels, 3 out of 3. Won 3 out of 4 ground duels, a couple of forward passes. But so statistically looks nice, and therefore I think gets that follows through in these rating websites. As you look at a couple other ones, he was rated pretty well too. But I still think like the interplay with Thuram, the linkage from the midfield the linkage from the defense to the forwards and having an impact on the game, that is what was lacking, right? And I think what we've seen from Locatelli stepping up, particularly over these last 3 or 4 months, where I know I've made the statement here that based on form and form alone, that Locatelli is performing like a top 5 midfielder in Europe right now. I know he's not a top 5 midfielder in Europe, but based on form, he's been playing there. But that's because he's been having impacts on games, right? He's linking the defense with the forward. You're seeing his grinta show through, right? You're seeing leadership quality. You're seeing his contribution in the buildup of play, and Koopmeiners, I don't know. I didn't see that today. Like he didn't make no. I think he was fine, but
you're very right, Kevin. But I'm gonna step into my football boots again, or in my football mind, and I think as a midfielder, it's more difficult to play alongside Thuram than to play alongside Locatelli in that respect. I think Thuram is very chaotic,
one-dimensional.
Yeah, and I think Koopmeiners needs that player that brings that certain amount of structure in midfield, that you expect or what he's gonna do even before he does it, so that you can anticipate as being the guy next to him and fill up the other gap or run the opposite way in order to create space. And with Thuram, you never know, because he might be able to play a back pass or even pull out a scissor move like twice in a row and start, leapfrogging everybody in midfield. It's very difficult, I think, to play with that. And I think
that's a fair comment.
I think this is one of Spalletti's biggest issues if he stays, to decide that midfield and see who needs to come in order to get more balance in, because we're very unbalanced at times. Even with Locatelli, it seems very random, very chaotic, very run-of-the-mill type of thing. And I don't think that these are the types of player that Spalletti would like to have in his midfield. I think Spalletti's somebody who understands the
Yeah.
importance of midfielders and they need to complement each other and need to have those aspects that, that they fill in for each other in certain dimensions. And I don't think that we have that chemistry in midfield right now. I'd also like to revert back because I'd see Dan Colissimo asking about my take on Perrin going feet first on Malen. I already discussed that at length, but it was ridiculous. Just to get back to that.
Yeah, Colo, what's up with you? You pop in and out. Come on, man. We talked about it for like 5 minutes. We still love Dan Colosimo though, but yeah. So we went through SofaScore. Somebody suggested SofaScore, and I went into it. We went away from what did we use before? FOTMob, and it seems like those ratings are just fodder. Don't take them seriously. Take them with a grain of salt. But
whose ratings I like, but we don't get them in real time. And anybody who follows like Italian commentators is the Monblano from Juventibus. What he puts out, and if you're not following him, please do. Like, you can translate his stuff.
You think he'd come on our podcast?
Who knows?
That's actually really interesting.
Maybe with Bepe's connections, we can.
I'd ask Bepe.
I think that would be hilarious. But yeah, sorry.
It was. I can't remember which match it was. It may have been the Galatasaray match. It may have been another one. But on the 0 to 10 scale, I think he gave David a 2 and Spalletti a 30. I mean, he's just like, he's accurate, right? calls it like it really is, and not this, to Frederic's point, just AI slop. And like Bremer today getting a 7.5 because he had an assist on FOTMob when defensively we had 3 goals, right? Like,
yeah.
Right? It's nonsense.
Yeah. Well, SofaScore, you've been demoted to AI slop. I'm sorry. Well, let's use our functioning brains and pick out our big testicles of the day.
Very big testicles.
Frederic, who's your man of the match?
Whew. That's a very tough one for me because I don't. To me,
let me ask you a question a different way. I thought about it when before we went on. So, if somebody can help us in the comments, who got the MVP of the game? I assume it's a Roma player. So tell me this: can Gatti be considered MVP of the game because he had such an important impact on the game?
If we're just talking impact, then it has to go to Zagrova.
Okay,
I think.
Fair enough.
But, that's also a difficult one because he wasn't on for the whole game, so it's hard to assess that in the sense of his presence overall.
But like most valuable, V is for valuable, like who made the most impact. And you can make a case that, Gatti came in 5 minutes later, he scores not a winner, but a tying game, but a tying goal.
I'd still go for Eden in that respect. He was involved in 2 of the goals and made an impact, made it difficult for Roma, was unpredictable, got minutes in, was very tight and organized and wasn't that baller figure that we saw a couple of weeks ago with the step overs and the whole bullshit that he offered. So he was more concrete in that respect, and I like that. Goes to show that he can be dangerous when he wants to be.
Kevin.
I'm going to cheat and go with Spalletti for this one. Given that the players in the first half, I think, let him down by not – he lined the team up well. They had, I think, the right mentality and approach to the game. They put themselves in position and can't score. We have errors that are individual that end up letting goals, and he was able to ensure that we were able to salvage this point. Thank goodness Gatti showed up at the right point at the right time with 60 seconds to go. But we were all talking about how February would be such a brutal month, and we look back at it. We have still not won a game in the league since February 1st. right? It's going to be we're playing Pisa next week, which I will be at, which I'm excited for.
Nice.
Very happy for you. Congratulations.
But it will
No,
be,
you're not.
It'll be over a month.
No, I'm not.
We've won in Serie A. So out of the Copa, out of Champions League, if we had not scored that tying goal today, it's very, very likely that we'd be out of the top 4 race.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least very, very challenging on the outside looking in, and the mental damage. Now, pulling off the 3-3, 2 goals scored by substitutes. Now that we don't have the midweek distractions, what does Spalletti do with this? Right? Can this be used as a turning point for the rest of the season, where we have some quote unquote lighter opposition over the course of the next couple weeks? But we know how hard every game in Serie A can be when you think about the matches against Lecce and Lazio and Cagliari, Como. Nothing can be taken for granted. But if we can use this as a turning point and kind of build on that fino alla fine that took us from 3-1 to 3-3 in the dying minutes of the game, how does he harness this? But today, like, he had his imprint on the game. And luckily we're talking about a tie and not a loss, and potentially just the total end of the season in March.
Yeah, and truth be told, I could see this Roma side still losing a certain number of points during these last 11 games. The only thing that I fear is, are we going to take advantage of that? Because I'd love to see, you can imagine the scenario, Roma losing to a random opponent, and we have this 3 o'clock game against I don't know, Pisa or the likes of Sassuolo, and we fumble it and get sent back to square one. That would be so Juventus 25-26 for us.
Well, right now would be a great time to mention that we are in 6th with 20. Everyone pretty much has 27 games under their belt. We are right below Como with 48. With 48 points, we have 47. Then Roma 51. Napoli in 3rd with 53, 57 for Milan, and 67 for Inter. Yeah. Well, yeah, this has been...
He have a very big testicles.
Yeah, a lot of people are shouting for Zagrova being the man in the match as well. And you know what? He like I said, good for him. Hopefully he takes this and runs with it and just kind of sets up the rest of his season. Because like you guys mentioned, we do need a strong end of the season. You got nothing else to play for. So let's
At least we know that we're definitely going to win against Pisa, given the fact that
Juventus Pisa, March 7th, my son's birthday actually. March 14th, Udinese away, Juventus away at Udinese. March 21st, Juventus Sassuolo, and April 4th, Juventus Genoa. So certainly, out of those 4 games, how many points are we taking?
16, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, wow.
No, what is it? No, 12. Sorry, I miscalculated. Okay. Should be. There's no excuse to not win against these teams, especially with no games in between. Especially given the fact that the focus solely lies on Serie A now. And I know Kevin, I could see him sweating already. I think Kevin and I both know that the likes of Udinese and Sassuolo, or the memories, have not been kind to us at certain times.
Well, that's one of the teams. Udinese is one of the teams that they're shouting out in the comments that is going to be a tough
away
game.
At Udinese. I think home against Sassuolo is a bit better. But, I mean, goodness, Sassuolo did us favors yesterday, especially in 10 men, too, beating out Alonso. But
don't Sassuolo always do us favors? I remember Inter game. What was it, 3-3 or 4-4?
That season, I think.
They usually do Inter a lot of favors. Their nickname is Scansuolo, and that means getting out of the way of certain people, and that's what they're accused of. That they, for the likes of Inter, please score a goal. So and they always make it difficult for us. So
Like Cambiaso today on the corner.
don't get me started. Turin going with both feet at a 1 versus 1.
No, I think
right,
like,
boys.
those next 4 games, though, Pisa, Udinese, Sassuolo, Genoa, we need to get 13 points, 3 wins, 1 draw out of those 4 matches, because following that, you have Atalanta, Bologna, and Milan, and those are really tough games.
Yeah.
You
and
can't draw off points against these Provinciali.
No, and I think Roma will drop a couple of points in those 4 games, especially given the fact that they still have a number of other things playing for them in that respect. And we now is the time to take advantage. I think March will be, as well as February. February hasn't been that kind to us in that respect, but I think March we'll show our true colors in March. And should you not get, like Kevin said, at least 12 or 13 points out of those games, I think it's over and done. And I don't expect us to draw this, drag this on for a lot longer. I think March will be defining.
Well said. Boys, thank you all so much. Thanks to everyone in the comments section. Thanks for catching this live. If you're listening to this on your day off at a gym, in a grocery store. By the way, I would love to hear where you guys listen to us, because it's sometimes I listen to podcasts in the strangest places, and I'm like, I wish the creators of this podcast knew where I am right now, because it's weird. But thank you all. Any last thoughts, boys, before we sign out?
Just want to say, I think like sometimes we come across very critical at times, and maybe kind of veer on the side of negativity. And I mean, it's just been a very difficult season when I think there was a lot of potential, and we get our hopes up at times, right? And we think we're about to
You still get your hopes up?
And then come crashing back down. I mean, the matches against the games against like Napoli, and when you beat Roma, and like how the 2026 started, having the chance of potentially going into the final 8 of the Champions League, or at least with the league or table stage, whatever the hell it's called. Like there's just these moments throughout the season where it's not, we think we're turning a corner and then it comes crashing back down. And then we think we're turning a corner and coming crash down. And like this past month has been very challenging, like mentally and emotionally, as someone who's invested into this team, and I put so much of my life into it outside of like work and family, right? Like Juve's like number 3 in my life where energy goes. So even in a day like today where, hey, we came back from 3-1 in Rome to tie the game in the last kind of 60 to 90 seconds, like yeah, we should be into it. And it is awesome. And I'm proud of the team for having that mental strength to get there when we know mental strength is a challenge with this team. I'm not trying to prove a point or just speaking openly just about like the impact it has on me personally and how that gets reflected in how we're communicating and orating this to our fans and followers, and certainly not trying to be overly negative when obviously there were good things to talk about in today's match. But
hey, we're fans. We're fans just like you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm holding back here, I'm really doing my best to hold back, but I have this Green Mile meme living rent free in my head. I'm tired, boss, like for 5 seasons already. So it's getting to be a bit exhausting, but
I think it's about time Juve give us something to cheer about.
Yeah.
We're going to lose Frederic. We don't want to do that.
With some consistency, not just like 2 matches that are really good and then it all just comes crashing back down, right? You go and tie against Pisa with 13 shots on frame and no goals, right? Like then it's all for naught, right? Like
how about, speaking of 5 games, how about Frederic doesn't cut his hair until Juve wins 5 games in a row? Let's make that a thing, huh? Boys and girls.
Cut my hair. No. I'll only have this thing growing here, and then the rest is all. No. I'll do a Gotti though. I'll do a Gotti. Maybe I'll do a Gotti.
Let's do Gotti, boys. Well, Thank you all so much for joining us, boys and girls. This was super fun. As always, follow us on socials at Turin Giants. Tell your friends about youtube.com/Turin Giants official. And it's been fun. Thank you, boys. Everybody in the comments, everybody listening. Check on your friends, stay hydrated, and Forza Juve.
Parte del Piero, rete del Piero.
Pallone con i contadini per Nedved, con il Pirlo, la conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco.
Del Piero,
Palla di Pogacar, Pogba, rete! Un gol incredibile! Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus